You know, sometimes it's interesting when you can just break a mechanic just for free. Hello nerds and nerdettes, welcome to Mana Brain. So today we are going over Chill Touch, which is a cantrip that in my opinion is probably the most misnamed spell in D&D, mostly because this requires no touch and does not chill or make your opponent cold. Now, this is a necromancy spell that gives your opponents the chill of the grave and does a bunch of other things. So actually with that, let's go ahead and dive into the actual wording of the spell so we can figure out how to break this thing. So the wording of the spell is that you create a ghostly skeletal hand in the space of a creature within range. You then make a ranged spell attack against the creature to assail it with the Chill of the Grave. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 damage or 1d10. I've also we'll get into a slight discrepancy I found. Necrotic damage, and it can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. Until then, the hand clings to the target. And then the spell's damage increases as your level goes up. Now, I believe that's the wording from 2024, but there is a slight discrepancy that I found that I do feel like I need to address because this will kind of impact how breakable this thing is. And before we get into the implications, I believe from 5e to 2024, the damage moved from 1d8 to 1d10. Now, that's not that big of a deal in general, it's just statistically speaking. However, the other part that did change is that there was an additional part of the spell I found, which was that if the target of the spell was undead, it also got disadvantage against attack rolls against you. So for the sake of this video, we are going to assume that it has all the components, which would include the Spectral Hand, the Chill of the Grave, the lack of ability to regain hit points, and the disadvantage against attack rolls. This can also change based off of what kind of game you're running or what your DM runs. So this is just a conversation that you need to have with your DM or GM. So my mind goes to that this is a defensive spell wrapped within an offensive spell's body. In weird use case number 1, you get to essentially choose who gets healed and who doesn't, whilst also creating damage. So, for example, let's say your party goes into a hospital. You can deliberately try to sabotage someone who's trying to get better, and this is also good against creatures that heal, such as like vampires or hydras or what have you. Now, this one does kind of shoot you in the foot a little bit, just because since it is a necromancy cantrip, it doesn't give you the health benefit that you get if you are a necromancer from killing a creature with a necromancy spell. I can't remember what that ability is, but whatever. But that's weird use case number 1. Number 2, and this one's probably going to be my favorite, is the fact that this spell completely makes invisibility useless. Ideally, you would hit your target before they turn invisible, because otherwise that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But since this does create a visible hand that clings to the target, you're just going to see the hand move around, so you still know where to aim. Now, you're probably going to be able to hit with a little less accuracy, but if your goal is just to hit the thing, you're going to hit the thing. Now, you can use those two use cases regardless of which variation of the spell you use. Those have remained consistent. However, if your DM also allows the variation where you can give disadvantage on an undead target, that means you can use this spell more defensively, which would mean that I would have this one in my spell book prepped a lot more, just because it would allow me to make my wizard less squishy. However, that is going to be on a little bit more of a case-by-case basis, depending on what your DM allows. However, if you do also have any other ways that you would break this spell, please let me know down in the comments below. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.